Welcome to Margot Dreams of Baking. Today I'm going to show you how to make these delicious, indulgent maple, bacon, and pecan sticky buns. Stick around. To begin this sticky bun dough, we're going to start with making a tangzhong, which is cooking a portion of your flour in a portion of your milk to seal in the moisture, and it makes a softer dough. So combine 23 grams or 3 tablespoons of your flour with 113 grams or about half a cup of your buttermilk. Cook on the stove until thick. You'll notice here I switched from a whisk to a spatula. That's just to stop it from sticking in the whisk as it gets thicker. Once the mixture is thick, cool it down to lukewarm before starting the rest of your dough. Once your tangzhong has cooled down, you're going to add that to the bowl of a stand mixer and add in the rest of your flour from the dough, which is 530 more grams of flour, along with 3 large eggs, 50 grams of sugar, 7 grams of instant yeast, 7 grams of salt, 85 grams of unsalted butter that has been melted, and the rest of your buttermilk. There's 225 grams total, so it's about another half a cup that you need to add. Start mixing it together with your mixer until it forms a cohesive ball. You can go around with a spatula as it mixes to help push the flour into the dough to form the ball. Once that has been mixed for a little bit, you can increase your stand mixer to about speed 4 to start mixing it and developing the gluten. Here I've let it mix for about 7 minutes or so, and I'm checking the dough to see if it's ready. So I'm just scraping down the dough. I know just by the look of it that it's not quite ready yet, but I'm going to show you how I test it. So I take off a little bit from the mixer and I stretch it. You can see that it broke really easily, so the gluten is not developed enough. I'm going to put my mixer back on and keep mixing it until the gluten is well developed and I can stretch the dough quite easily. Here I let it go for about 10 minutes total, and I'm going to stop and check it now. I can see already by the picture that it's much smoother. When I stop it, it'll have the look of Play-Doh. I'm going to do the stretch test once more, and if it passes the test, then I'm going to cover it and let it sit until doubled in size, which is about 2 hours. I like to rest in a warm spot about 24 to 25 degrees Celsius. And here I am testing the dough now. You can see how much easier it stretches without breaking. While my dough rises, I'm going to make the glaze for the sticky buns. In a pan over medium heat, combine 100 grams or half a cup of brown sugar, 85 grams of unsalted butter, which is about 6 tablespoons, 60 milliliters of maple syrup, about a quarter cup, 61 grams of dark corn syrup, about 3 tablespoons, 45 milliliters of heavy cream, about 3 tablespoons, half a teaspoon of salt, and I like to add some cayenne pepper in for a little sweet heat to these sticky buns. I put in 3/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne or chipotle powder, depending on how I'm feeling that day. I'm going to mix it all together until it becomes a cohesive liquid and it just begins to bubble a bit. My mixture has now started to bubble, so I'm going to remove it from the heat and pour it into the bottom of a 9 by 13 inch baking pan with 2-inch sides. I'll let that sit until I'm ready to add the buns. My dough has now doubled in size, so it's time to mix together the filling. In my bowl, I have 150 grams or 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground allspice, 1 pinch of ground nutmeg, and a pinch of salt. And I'm just mixing it all together until it's nice and uniform, breaking up any lumps of sugar with my fingers. I'm going to set that aside while I roll out my dough. Next, I'm going to dump the dough out onto the counter to roll it out before filling it. Before I put it on the counter, I lightly greased it with some cooking spray. Next, I'm going to use a greased rolling pin to roll out my dough. And the reason I do greased rather than flour is because I want to keep my dough nice and soft and I don't want to add extra flour. Greasing the counter and the rolling pin does a fine job. You want to roll the dough to about 1/4 inch or 1 centimeter thick. Now that I have my dough rolled out, I'm going to brush it with some butter. I have about 3 tablespoons or 60 grams of unsalted butter that I have melted and cooled slightly, and I'm going to brush it all over the surface of the dough. It does seem like quite a bit of butter, but you need this much to make luscious sticky buns. Then once the dough is coated in butter, I'm going to spread the filling all over the surface of the dough in an even layer, leaving about a 1 centimeter border at the top of the dough so that I can seal the buns once they're rolled. Just spread it nice and evenly using your hands, trying to get it all over every part of the dough except for that 1 centimeter border. Once you have the entire surface covered, it's time to start rolling the dough. I try and get it in as tight a roll as I can. So I roll a bit and I pull it a little bit just to tighten it as well. You can see me sort of just pulling it back, making sure it's nice and tight so that the filling is spread throughout the bun and you have nice spirals once it's all rolled together. When you get to the last little bit, you'll probably need to stretch the edges out a bit to make it nice and even, and then just press it together. Then with a sharp knife, you want to cut it into 12 even pieces. Once you have your pieces all sliced, grab your baking pan that has the sauce in it and place the buns cut side down in 3 rows of 3. Once they're all in the pan, you're going to cover them with plastic wrap and let them rise again until doubled in size. This could be 1 to 2 hours depending on how cold the environment is. My sticky buns have now risen. You can see that they're nice and puffy and touching each other. So now it's time to bake them. I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius with a baking stone placed on the lower middle rack. I'm going to put the pan directly on the baking stone and bake until the internal temperature of the dough reads about at least 180 degrees Fahrenheit or 82 degrees Celsius and the buns are risen and golden. This will take about 25 to 30 minutes. While my sticky buns bake, it's time to make the topping. In my medium saucepan over medium heat, I have combined 50 grams of brown sugar, which is about 1/4 cup, 45 milliliters or 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, 1/4 teaspoon of chipotle or cayenne powder, which is optional, with 60 grams of unsalted butter, which is about 3 tablespoons, and 1 pinch of salt. I'm going to mix them all together until the butter has melted the mixture has combined and it starts to bubble. Now that my mixture is combined and it's just starting to bubble, I'm going to add in 85 grams of pecans, which is about 3/4 of a cup that I've toasted and coarsely chopped, along with 4 slices of bacon that I've cooked until crisp and crumbled up. And I'll just stir those together until it's all combined and set aside until I'm ready to top the buns. My buns are now baked and golden, and I'm just testing the temperature and it's well above 180. It's 205. So I'm going to let those sit for 10 minutes before turning them out. After 10 minutes, place a rimmed baking sheet or a cutting board that has a rim around the edge over top and flip them out. There's quite a bit of sauce that will come out, so I recommend something with a rim to catch the sauce. Been a few minutes and I finally get to try one of these buns. They are just glistening with the caramel sauce that's on top of them, and they're so soft and spongy in texture. I can't wait to try. These are messy, so they require a knife and a fork. The sweet of the caramel with the crunchy saltiness of the bacon and the pecans just goes really well. There's a teeny bit of heat, but barely noticeable because of all the sugar in the glaze. It really covers it up, but it's a really nice little compliment that you get just in the back end of your throat, just a little tickle. It's not overwhelming. They're so soft. A ton of layers where there's all that filling there. I have to have another bite. They are just out of this world, a perfect indulgent brunch treat. I hope you try them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel. For more videos, check out my playlists.